Hello everyone, this is Todd Blankenship with RocketStock.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use our new fire effects library called Ignite. This pack has over 500 VFX elements that you can use in your composites and your motion graphics and anywhere that you need to add fire to your video projects. All of these elements are extremely high quality and come in 4K resolution. As you'll see, there are a lot of different folders included with the pack, and these elements are split between the different types. So before you get started with anything, I'd suggest that you go through them and get acclimated with what's available. These files are compatible with Premiere, Final Cut, and After Effects, although they should work in any nonlinear video editing software. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get good use of these elements in all three programs. Okay, so let's get started in Premiere. Now, with any type of compositing, you're really going to want to use a piece of software that's a little bit more oriented towards compositing. So Premiere is an editing software, not necessarily a compositing software, but you can still find ways around it. So for this shot here, it's a still shot. That's pretty much the only time that you're going to really have any success with compositing in Premiere, because you can layer elements on top without needing to do any tracking. So if you're going to use a moving shot, you're going to want to go into After Effects. But as I said, you can use these elements in Premiere all the same. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new sequence. I'm going to drag this clip to the New Item button right here. And what that's going to do is start a new sequence. And as you can see, it's just a locked off tripod shot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some fire coming from this hallway here. So to start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this clip here, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to hold down the Alt key and just drag up a few video layers just like that. So what that's done is it's created a copy of our shot. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the effect controls of our duplicate layer here and go to the opacity tab, and I'm just going to click on this free draw Bezier tool for a mask. And I'm going to go ahead and just zoom in a bit so we can see what we're doing. And that zoomed out. I'm going to zoom in, go to about 200% here, and I'm going to draw a shape around this door frame. And this doesn't necessarily need to be extremely exact, except for on this edge here, because we're going to be putting fire around that side. Okay, so we've closed that off, and right now the mask has a 10, pixel feather on it, and I'm going to leave it like that just for now. We might have to go change that later, but let's just keep moving forward. So now I'm going to go into the Ignite pack here that I've imported the entire thing, and as you can see, there is a lot of elements in this. But as you can see, there is a base folder, and I think this is a good place to start, as they're just kind of base fire elements. Okay, this element right here is where I'm going to start for this. So this is the Fire Base Large 14 here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that underneath the duplicate layer that we had. And as you can see, we got some weird stuff going on. Now, first off, our mask on this element here is actually backwards of the way that we want it to be, and we can see that now. So what I'm going to do is click on our duplicate layer. I'm going to go to Effect Controls, and on this mask here, I'm going to go ahead and check Inverted. Okay, so now we have this black hole where the door frame is, and we can start putting things in there. Now, as you can see, there is black there. I'm going to go ahead and get this fire in place. Obviously, it's extremely way too big. I'm going to go ahead and size that down. We're going to move it down here. Kind of tuck it in this corner a little bit, something like that. I'm going to keep making it smaller. And this is just compositing. This is just, you got to kind of fine tune it till you get something that looks real, and that can take a while. But now that we have that kind of in place, we can go ahead and on the opacity tab over here, change the blend mode from normal to screen. Okay, so now we have some fire in our hallway there, and we can kind of see a little bit better where it maybe should go to look a little more realistic. And I'm going to go ahead and layer in a couple more items. So the thing here is just each time you need more video space, more video layers, you can just drag your top layer up a bit and keep going. But I'm going to go ahead and just add one of these ground fires to this. And again, we're going to set it to screen mode, and I'm just going to get it in position and scale it to where it's looking right. And you just use these effect controls here in the effect controls panel to make that happen. I'm going to go ahead and just put one more of those. It's just one of those things where you just kind of layer things around till you get something that looks realistic. The next thing that you always want to do anytime you're doing any sort of compositing is you just want to make sure that you are doing color correction over top of everything to kind of blend it all into one scene. So the first thing that I'm going to do in order to do that is I'm going to take all of our fire elements right here. I'm going to right click and select nest. And I'm going to call that fire. And if you're familiar with After Effects, that's pretty similar to pre-composing. And I'm going to go again. Now we have to reset it to screen mode. And now we're back to where we were. And I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. And on the top version of that duplicate, I'm going to go to a Gaussian blur effect. And we're going to drag it onto the top layer. And I'm just going to turn that up a lot. Okay? And what that's going to do is it's just going to create kind of a glow. You can fine tune that however you like. And then I'm going to go ahead and just turn down the opacity. Now, to do that, I'm going to just turn off this stopwatch just so it's not creating keyframes. And I'm just going to turn that down to something like 40%. A little bit less. Let's make it 30. I'm going to go to the top layer and I'm going to bring in a lumetri effect. And I'm just going to kind of dial in a look a little bit. To start with that, I'm going to go ahead and just darken it. And I'm going to go again to the bottom layer, add a lumetri there, because now you can see this is not as dark as it needs to be. They don't match. So we're going to match it together. I'm just going to drag that down till it looks right. Then we're going to click the new item button. I'm going to select adjustment layer. Hit OK. And we're going to drag that on top of everything. And again, we're going to take a lumetri effect and put that on the adjustment layer. Then I'm going to drop down curves, and I'm just going to put kind of an overall correction on top of everything. And you always want to finish with that. It's just always going to blend everything together a little bit better. And I'm also going to go ahead and turn down the saturation. Everything, once you start layering a bunch of stuff and kind of adding multiple color corrections to things, sometimes it gets a little overly saturated. I'm going to just turn the saturation down to 70. Let's try 80. And so here's the result that we came up with in Premiere. So now we're going to get started in Final Cut. So in this example, I have a shot of a fireplace, and all I'm going to do is just make it look like the fire is going way out of control. So what I have here are just a bunch of various fire elements, and I'm just going to go ahead and take this fireplace shot and drop it onto a timeline. And then from there, all you have to do is just start taking various elements and positioning them wherever you want. So I'm just going to start dragging these down and creating layers on top of this fire. And again, once you drag it in, you'll notice the screen is all filled with black. The easiest and quickest way to get rid of that is to click on your fire element, go up to the compositing area, and switch the drop down here from normal to screen. So now you'll see that all the black has been taken out of the element, and we can position it where we like. So I'm going to just grab that fire element, and using these transform tools, and you can also turn them on by clicking this button here, I'm just going to put stuff into place and scale it to where I like it. So I'm just going to start grabbing all these elements and layering them on. Okay, so what I've done here, I've got about 4 of these fire elements, and they're all layered on top of this fireplace, and we have a couple of problems. So the first one is, you can see the fire in the background here is moving a lot quicker than our fire elements. And again, that's because we shot these in slow motion in order for you to have the most options in post when trying to composite with these elements. For instance, if you had some slow motion material that you needed some fire for. So what you're going to need to do is speed all of these elements up. All you do is just select all of the elements that you have that you want to speed up. And then right here, there's this little button with the little stopwatch kind of thing on there. And it's just the time options. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to navigate to the fast menu here. And we're going to try 4 times. So now what we've done is we've sped up our footage to kind of match the look of the real fire. Now the other issue that we have in this shot is the fireplace fire is much brighter and blown out. And we gave you these elements obviously exposed properly so that you could make these decisions in post how you wanted them to look. So what you're going to need to do is manually kind of blow out the fire element. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to take a color correction effect. We're just going to drag it onto one of the elements here. And now we have this little color correction color board effect up here. We're just going to click on that, navigate over, and now we have the color, saturation, and exposure tabs in the color correction effect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the highlights here, which is this little node right here. I'm just going to push that up to where it's quite a bit brighter. And you can already see that fire kind of matching up now. And I'm going to take this, the mids here, and bring that up as well. So now you can see our fire is looking quite a bit brighter, and I'm just going to keep bringing that up like that. And we're going to do the same thing to the other 4 elements. And to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and select the clip that we already added the color correction to. I'm going to go up to Edit and select Copy. Then I'm going to select the other 3 clips and go up to Edit and select Paste Effects. So now everything is super bright. Okay, so let's start to use some of these assets in After Effects. What I have here is just this shot. It's got this real subtle kind of slider move on it. So why don't we go ahead and set some stuff on fire? So I'm going to go ahead and just click on our footage layer here. And I'm going to go to the tracker. And if you don't have your tracker up, you can go up to Window and make sure that tracker is checked. And if it is, it's somewhere in your screen. And you'll go to the Track Camera option here. With your layer selected, go ahead and select Track Camera. And after a short period of waiting, you'll get a bunch of these little crosshatch kind of crosshair marks, okay? So one thing that you'll see whenever I mouse over some of them is you get this little notification that says no depth from a tripod pan solve. And that's kind of okay. The only thing is I do actually want the depth. And so what happened here is the software interpreted this shot automatically as a tripod pan, but it's not. It's actually a slider move. So there is some depth there. So we want it to go ahead and readdress that tracking information. So to fix that, I'm going to drop down this Advanced tab here, and you'll see Solve Method is set to Auto Detect. And in this case, it didn't detect correctly. So what we're going to do is I'm going to drop that down, and I'm going to change it to Typical. Okay, so what it's going to need to do then is resolve the camera. Right off the bat now, you can see that these X's, these little crosshairs, are way bigger when closer to the camera, and then real small off in the distance here, we have some other much smaller crosshairs. So now we do have the depth information that we need. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and just turn up this track point size quite a bit, something like that. And now we can really see what we're working with here. The first thing I'm going to do is hit the Create Camera button so that we can have a 3D camera in our scene. And I'm going to go ahead and start kind of portioning out some 3D data. So the way that we'll do that is I'm just going to select 3 points at a time in various spots. And obviously you can select more than 3 points like I did just there. And once I have some points selected, all you have to do is just kind of drag around. It's almost like a lasso tool. And you're going to just right click and select Create Solid. So now if you deselect your footage layer, you can see now you have a solid there. And just so I can see it better, I'm going to go ahead and hit the S key for scale. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm just going to scale that up probably somewhere right around there. And I'm just going to do that a few more times in various areas of the scene. Like let's say we might want some fire back here. Sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and right click, Create Solid, and I'm going to scale that up so I can see it right about there. Let's do one up here, scale it up. Let's do one on this pillar thing and scale it up. So now what we have are a bunch of 3D solids that are portioned out in 3D space. This way we can use the position data of these solids to move these fire elements in 3D space where we want them. So once you have your solids set up, you just want to RAM preview like I just did to just kind of make sure that everything looks like it's kind of sticking to the area that they're supposed to stick in 3D space. So now is the really fun part. We can just go into the Ignite pack and we'll just start dragging elements out. So this looks like a really good element to start with, okay? So as you can see, we get this really nice reflection of the fire off of the water. So what I'm going to do, first off, I'm going to go ahead and turn off all of my solid layers, but I do know that I want to steal the position data from this one specifically for this element. So first I'm going to drag it into my scene, and I'm going to go ahead and make it a 3D object. I'm going to select the solid that I want to take the position data from. I'm going to hit the P key. It's going to drop down position. I'm going to select the position, hit Command C to copy it, and I'm going to go to the position settings of the fire element, and I'm going to hit Command V to paste it. So now we have a tiny little fire element right there, and what I'm going to do is scale that up and get it in position where I like it. So I'm going to scale it up pretty good. I want it to be kind of right in front of the camera, so to speak. I'm going to set it to Add Mode. And I want the fire to be established when the shot starts. So already, just look at that. It's reflecting off the water. That just looks really nice. I'm just going to start grabbing some more of these, and we'll just kind of just sort of vary it up and place them into the scene. See how this one grows quite a bit? That's going to be cool. I'm going to go ahead and just drop that in, make it 3D as well. And I'm going to take the position data of the first one that we set up. So select our first fire element, hit P to drop down position, Command C to copy, and we'll paste it to the new one. And let's scale that up, and let's set that to add as well. So if you remember, we have the position data from all over the scene. So let's find one that's kind of in the back. So let's see, this blue one, that's perfect. So just remember this process. Select the position that you want, hit P, Command C, hit P again, and then Command V. Okay, so now we have it where we want it in the scene, and we'll scale it up, and there we go. And then also one thing you'll see, this one actually cuts off on the bottom, and that's just because it was a little bit too big for the frame, but that's a quick fix. All you got to do is just select your fire element. You'll go and double click on the rectangle tool, and that's going to put a mask around the edges of the frame there. And then all you got to do is just double tap the M key, and that's going to bring up the mask properties here. And you'll just bring down the mask expansion a good amount, and you'll see that edge is kind of going up, and then you'll just feather that. And you just want to make sure that you don't feather it to the point where you can see the edge again. So right about there is perfect. And once you've kind of got some stuff that works, like you can really just sort of start copying these things and just sort of dragging them around, and then you can just take other ones, and if you're holding down the Alt key, you can just drag it down on top of itself, and what that's going to do is replace it. So this one works. I'm just going to go ahead and drag it in. I'm going to hold Alt, put it in there, and so now we have, you know, quite a few fire elements in place, and I kind of like how they're looking. So now we can just start color correcting everything. I'm going to go ahead and isolate one layer and the background, and let's just kind of dial in the color of this fire so that it looks a little bit more like it blends in with the scene. So I'm going to go to Effect, Color Correction, Curves, and this scene is a little bit blue. So I'm just going to pump up the blue just a little bit. And it's also a little bit green. Pump up the green some, something like that. And you just really want to go subtle with it. And I'm also going to pull out just a little bit of red. So let's just kind of A/B it and see. So that's what it looked like before, and that's what it looks like now. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to Stylize, Glow, and I'm just going to turn up the glow radius quite a bit. What we're going to do is we're going to copy those effects. We'll go ahead and unsolo our layers here, and we'll just paste those same effects to all of our other fire layers. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a new adjustment layer. And this time we're going to select a Lumetri color effect. And now we're just going to add a color correction to the entire scene. So I'm going to go to Curves here, and I'm just going to add a little bit more contrast by dropping this down and punching up the contrast. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of dial in just a little bit of a look, like bring up some of the blue, pull it out in some areas, pull out a little bit of the red, just kind of keep making it look a little bit dark and gloomy. So after a quick RAM preview, here's the effect that we were able to create in a very short period of time using these elements. So there you go. I hope you guys get some great use out of this really nice library of fire elements. Be sure to keep in mind that these elements were all shot in slow motion. So if you have a normal speed project, you'll need to speed them up in order for them to look natural. And if you have any issues or questions, feel free to contact our support staff. We're always happy to help you out. Be sure to check out RocketStock.com and keep an eye on us for more pack releases in the future. We have a lot more great stuff coming out very soon. Good luck with all of your projects, and enjoy.